welcome to the Untethered Consciousness channel. My name's Rod. I've got Christine Harrington with me here today as well. Hello, Christine. How are you?
I am good, Rod. You're going to have to change my picture since I've got a new hairdo and color.
Now you've got your new haircut. I'll get some video later, and I'll I'll switch it over in case you come back. This is our fourth live stream today, and I can see we've got a few people have tuned in already, which is great. So it's 10 a.m. on Wednesday in Sydney, Australia at the moment where I am. Christine, I think you're probably Central Time, so around about 7 p.m. around there. Would that be right?
It's Tuesday, 8 p.m. in Indianapolis.
Tuesday, 8 p.m. Okay, so you don't have daylight saving where you are at the moment. Okay, that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in the UK, I think it's like about 2 a.m. in the morning. So anyone who's tuning in from Europe is very keen. So if you are tuning in, I'd love to hear from you. I really enjoy finding out where people are coming from. So if you, here we go. We've got Tina. Hello, Tina. Thanks for dropping in. Let us know where you're from. I'm interested to know. Tina's joining us on YouTube. So we're simulcast both on YouTube and on Facebook. And I've got to get used to looking at the camera. A lot of the times I look at the screen, and so for people who are watching, I'm sorry about that. I'm got to get used to talking to people from on the camera. And we've also got Jason. G'day, Jason. Jason joins me on these live streams. He has joined me for the last 3 weeks in a row, and he's basically been a great supporter of the channel. So I appreciate you joining us today. And we've got Christine with us on the channel today. So a little bit about Christine. I'll do a quick intro for you, Christine. So as far as we had Christine on the channel around probably about 3 weeks ago, I think it was. And Christine had a near-death experience when she died during childbirth. So if you haven't seen Christine's interview, then it's just find it on the channel. Make sure you've got a box of tissues with you as well, because it's such a brave story. So, but definitely one that's worth watching. Now, the format for today is, this is an opportunity for people to ask questions of Christine about her experience, but really just about anything general. I try to keep this as a place where people can talk about things that they can't always talk about in other places. So near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, anything related to, the paranormal, and, all questions are accepted. So if you have a question, I'll just throw the format up here. And so basically, if you have one, just type in a Q and then put your question in, and I'll star that, and then we'll pick it up, and we'll do our best to answer that for you as well. So I have a question for you, Christine. Well, in fact, I have a number of questions while people are logging in. So if you are just joining us, don't be shy. Say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from. So I've got a list over here. The first one is, so given that you've shared your experience in a few places now, recently, have you had many people that have been curious about your near-death experiences from places that you didn't expect? Either, I guess, what I mean places you didn't expect, like maybe family or perhaps people from your congregation. Not so far.
Nothing from the Catholic community, I'll tell you that. Nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
Which that doesn't surprise me, because it's not a topic that they're open to talking about, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like, there's always outliers, I reckon. So I mean, I guess in your community, you're a bit of an outlier, and I'm
the outlier, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It would surprise me.
I've gotten contacted from a lot of people I don't know that are curious, which is great. Anybody that wants to contact me, it's really easy. It's just eternallifeplan@gmail.com. That's my email address. Yeah. Which a lot of people mistake that for an life insurance company.
You should maybe have another address that redirects to that one that explains it a little better.
Right.
Have you had many other people that have had similar experiences to you that have reached out?
None at all. Matter of fact, I don't know anyone in my circle that has ever had a near death experience. I just seem to be the only one. And one of the things that I did research is I guess a lot of the near death experiences started happening back in the 60s when resuscitation became a little more sophisticated, and they have been, the medical community has been able to resuscitate people that have died. So that seems to be one of the reasons why there's been so many reported near death experience since that time, because of resuscitation. I mean, truthfully, Rod, had I been born, or had I had childbirth in the 30s or 40s, my son and I, neither one probably would have survived.
Yeah, yep, yep. And how about because email is open to the world, have you had any people that have contacted you that have had similar experiences, that people that you didn't already know through that way?
No.
Okay.
None at all. I've had people that have reached out for me to be on their channels, the other near-death experience channels. I haven't done any of that yet because honestly, I've been so busy with my business that I haven't had time to do more interviews.
Yep, yep.
Excuse me.
I'm curious about your business actually. Why don't you tell us what you do there? I know that it's something to do with the sales area, and I was also curious about how your near-death experience whether that's something that's affected like how you operate, within your business life as well.
Sure. My business is the Savvy Sales Lady. I spent 4 decades in corporate insurance sales before I started my own sales coaching and training business. And what I do is companies bring me in to train their sales teams on various things that they need help with. And I also do one-on-one coaching, personal coaching for salespeople that feel like that they need to learn new sales techniques, or they're stuck and they need help getting unstuck, or new salespeople that just were never trained and they want to be trained the right way. So I get a lot of that. One of the things that happen as a result of the near-death experience is my intuition heightened. So a lot of times when I'm doing one-on-one coaching, Rod, I get a sense that maybe there's more to what the client is willing to share, and I'll gently prod them, and before you know it, all of a sudden it all comes out, the problems that they're having and situations that are going on. I always tell them I'm not a therapist, but
But you end up being one anyway.
right. It kind of like, women that go to their hairdressers and just cry their eyes out at for their hairdresser, and
Yeah.
she knows more about us than anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That was so your intuition sort of has it evolved? Have you gotten better at understanding and working with that as time has gone by?
Yes, and of course you know this, Rod, that the more you meditate and the more that you open yourself up to God, then the more intuitive you become. It's not that, what I do and can do is special. It isn't. Everybody can do it. And I did it before the near death experience. I shut it down because my church teaches that, it's the devil. and and I shut down a lot of it after the near death experience. And then when I allowed myself to start talking about the near death experience again, over the last 5 years. Really, over the last 2 years is when it really just started haunting me. My intuition became more and more increased, but that's also because my meditation and prayer also increased. There's a direct correlation there.
I know meditation is very individual to every person. Do you? I find if I like to go for walks actually. Sometimes I just can't bring myself to sit still for long, but I never fail not to go for a walk because I've got a nature reserve near me. What do you find works for you? What's a consistent practice that you find works for you?
After I get up in the morning and I, get my coffee and all of that, I can, about a half hour in, I can just sit down and meditate for 15 to 20 minutes. I do some guided meditation as well. My current favorites are, excuse me, Sheila Gillette's Theo meditations. Are you familiar with her, Rod?
I'm not familiar with her, but the name Theo, is she a channel for Theo? Is that the? Yeah, I'm familiar with Theo, but just because of is it Abraham Hicks? I think they mention in some of those that Theo was kind of like how Esther Hicks evolved. I'm pretty sure that's where she had some exposure to Theo, and then she later on became a channel herself.
That's correct. Sheila was her mentor, Esther's mentor. So that's how that all came about for Esther. And, I used to follow Esther at one time. And again, was pulled back in thinking that this is from the devil and I shouldn't listen. And Rod, all I can say is I feel like I've wasted so many years just going back and forth in this inner conflict I've had. But after talking to you, after talking to David Such, after talking to Jeffrey Mara,
he's a good guy.
It just feels natural now. And I don't know what I was afraid of, but it feels so natural now.
Yeah. Well, there's, that's another question I have is that there's a lot of programming. I'm completely agnostic as far as religion goes. Like I like to hear everybody's point of view, and I'm more interested in faith and what parts of someone's faith actually works for them versus what doesn't work for them. I think, well, if it's not working for you, then it's probably, take a look at that. Why keep doing something that doesn't work for you? But there would be a lot of people who are in similar situations to you that have, been brought up and taught that to not question what they learn as part of their religion. And maybe they've had experiences or they know people that have had experiences like you have. What kind of advice would you have for those people as, if they just feel like they have these conflicting emotions like you've had? It's like on one hand, they know that what happened to them was real. It did happen to them, but they don't want to talk about it. Have you got any advice for those people?
Yes, thank you, Rod. I do. David Such said this to me. He said, go where you feel that you're comfortable finding God. That's what he told me. Yeah. And I do love Mass. I do love the experience of Mass. I do love receiving the Holy Communion. I do love those things. And when I go to Mass, I feel like I'm the closest to God. That's what he said. He said, find where you're the closest to God. And that's where I do find where I'm the closest to God is when I go to Mass. So I know a lot of Catholics that have had these same experiences as me, got shut down by the church just like I did. I know a lot of them walked away. I was determined. I did not want to walk away. I just wanted to find a way I could fit in, and I've done that now. I don't care if people in my congregation don't approve of me. They don't approve of me anyhow because I had 2 abortions. So, I just might as well add this one onto it. But they accept me because of my Rachel Vineyard work as a facilitator, which is a wonderful program, and I will always do that program. But I've just decided that it really doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It's just between God and I, anyhow. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best that you can do, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. It'd be. I envision that there will be a world one day where everyone will be accepted on their own merit. Not it won't be about what you do or who you are or what your sexual orientation is or anything like that. It'll just be who you are as a person. That'll be the one thing that matters.
Well, before all of this noise started between sexuality, I had friends that were gay. We just never, it just wasn't a topic. They knew I wasn't. I knew they were. Okay. And we were still friends, and we just didn't talk about, our sexuality and who had more rights than the other one. We just were friends, and I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
You have to accept people for where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's I just had this realization. Sometimes we can get a little insular. If you always have the same community, same people, it's easy to become insular and not accepting of those who are outside of that circle. And I'm constantly reminded where I live here, I call it like the ghetto in Sydney. And I'm the odd one out. So there's not very many people who look like me who are typical, Caucasian looking. There's a lot of people of Asian descent. There's a lot of people from Kenyans. They're all such a mixture. And it's a constant reminder to me that we're all in this big melting pot, and there isn't any one. Sure, there are different races, but we're all just people at the end of the day, and we all have our own different stories. We all come from different places, and I actually like that. I like that.
I do too.
Not being isolated, or being too insulated. It's good.
In my business, there is something I work with. This will just give you an example of what we're talking about. I work with 3 women prisons through the Televerde Foundation. And what they do is they take women inmates and train them how to be telemarketers. I train them how to do cold calling for Fortune 500 companies, how to talk to CEOs, things like that. And then when they're released from prison, Televerde Foundation has partnered with employers, and they're able to get jobs. One of their women just got a job making $150,000 for Cisco Corporation as a salesperson. Yeah, and so they set them up in an apartment. And I don't know if you know this about the United States. There is no forgiveness. Once you're a felon in everybody's eyes here, you're always a felon. And that's just not fair. Some of these people are in prison due to unfortunate circumstances, and they deserve a second chance, just like everybody else. Don't define them on the worst mistake of their life. Let them prove that, they can contribute to society. So part of my business is to help train those women. It's almost become a ministry for me because I just really have a lot of compassion for them and want to help them, succeed once they're released.
Yeah, that's awesome. It reminds me of we've got Jason. I think he's still there actually. Jason Janas. he asked me this question, which was, "What's the ultimate form of love, Rod?" And I kind of wasn't sure about what he was talking about. So is it for a parent for their children? But it's really that empathy and compassion. It's the highest form that you can have, I think. And I think if there's to be hope, if there's hope for people to reform, yeah, Jason's there. Good on you, mate. Then obviously that what you're doing allows that reform to occur, and because if people have a well-paying job and they feel like they're a contributing member of society, then there's much less chance for them to reoffend and end up back in jail again.
Well, I always say love is a choice. It's not a feeling, it's a choice. And when you love someone, you have to love them. We have to love everyone unconditionally, as Jesus did, and as God does. I've often said to my friends who have really, I had people tell me, don't do it, don't train the incarcerated. And I'm thinking that is insane. And,
Yeah.
I would say back, if your son or daughter did something that sent them to prison, are you telling me you would never love them again? You would cut off all your love for them? Because God certainly doesn't.
Yeah, it's a good question. All right, so I've got another question for you. There is, you mentioned you had these sort of some foggy memories. I know it's only a few weeks ago that we spoke, but I'm interested in whether your sort of meditative practices have helped you get some more clarity or restored any of those memories that are a bit, they're very brief. I know there was one you mentioned, there was a snippet of seeing a meadow, which is something that I've heard a lot of other NDEs see as well. So I'm curious about whether you've got any more clarity there.
I don't have any clarity at all. Yeah, unfortunately, not that I haven't asked for it. I do, but nothing at this point. So I'll let you know, Rod, if I do.
I'm gonna throw up a book from my Kindle if I can get it to load. Here we go. So this book here is one I talk about quite often, Vistas of Infinity by Jergen Ziewe. And I incorrectly said that Jergen Ziewe had passed away. Everyone, he's fine. He's not. He's not passed away. I got him mixed up with another similar author, Bruce Moen, who had recently passed away. He'd written several great books. Anyway, in this book, so Jergen, through many years of meditative practice, started to have these out-of-body experiences, really incredible ones. And in one of them, he quite vividly describes being in a meadow. And I've also there's another near-death experience, which is one that's really popular on the internet, where I think he was a fireman, where he also described, ending up in a meadow. So it's almost like it's part of the process that's, the NDEs is a bit of a guided process versus an out-of-body experience is really sort of up to you as to what happens. So, I think it's fascinating that happened to you. It'd be really good if have you ever thought about I think it's HQQT therapy or regression therapy to uncover that a bit more, or is it, I don't have an opinion either way. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I have not. I can't even say I've even considered it. I haven't thought about it. I have been so concentrated on meditating and trying to get my own answers. A lot of times I've been doing a lot of research on other NDE experiencers too and what they've gone through, which is, they have similar emotional responses like I have. Their death experience may be a little different, where they actually meet people. And, one of the things that I'm trying to get answers on when meditating is who were the two beings that were with me that I don't know who they were. I'm really trying to figure that piece out too. And, some people say that they were in the white light and God talked to them. I don't remember God talking to me. I just remember feeling the unconditional love that's undescribable, and then the warmth that I felt. The other thing, and Rod, maybe you know this question from interviewing people. I'm trying to find out, is the spirit and soul the same, or are they two separate? Are you both spirit and soul, which some people believe that, or are you just a soul, or is the soul and spirit one thing? And I've been trying to find that answer too. Have you heard anybody talk about that?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's differences in terminology. And you know what? If Jason is actually there, this would be a good one for him because he had some pretty big insights as far as that goes. So I'm just gonna throw up the studio link there, Jason, if you are here, and if you think you can answer that question. So the question is, are the spirit and the soul the same thing, or are they somewhat separate? Yeah, for me, my understanding or my perspective is that they are one and the same depending on your context. So when I think about spirit, I think about really spirit is something that sort of flows through all of us. So it's that part that is it's not unique to each individual. It's something that's in everything that exists, right? So you could also call that source or God or whatever you like to call it. Whereas I think about the soul as that's the part that's kind of unique to you as an individual.
Your consciousness.
Yeah. So, and that itself is also consists of spirit, if you know what I mean. That's
right.
That's my take on it. Anyway, so
okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that gives you any clarity at all. Just on the,
that helps.
I'll see whether Jason does log in. There was, I just want to add my screen back. This lady here, who I had on the channel a little while ago, she actually, and Julie Northway. So she also saw two beings, and one of them was her grandmother. So she did know who one was, but she didn't know who the other one was. So it's interesting that you saw two beings as well. And what she said was that there was some familiarity. Like it was like she knew them from somewhere, but couldn't put a name to them. So it sounds like that's the same for you, right? They felt familiar somehow, but you couldn't place them.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I did know them over on the other side, and I just don't remember for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I didn't see them. I just knew they were there, and they were talking to me through the thoughts. So, they weren't family, that I know, or friends that had passed.
Yeah. So I guess one possible perspective is that a lot of people have some sort of a guide who's a relative that helps them when they crossover, and also there's like a more like an angelic guide, a spirit guide, someone who isn't a relative who is with you for your entire life here on Earth. So perhaps one of those might have been that angelic spirit guide. So on the whole topic of spirit and soul, Jason Janas, who was the first interviewee on my channel, he's actually joined the stream. So I'm going to drop Jason in, and we'll just get his perspective on that. So here we go.
Okay.
Jason,
hello.
Jason, welcome.
Hey,
You're joining me.
Hi, Christine.
Joining me here with Christine. This is the first time I've had three people on the channel in the stream all at once. So what do you think? So about the soul versus spirit, and what's your take on all of that?
We are a soul. We're an eternal soul. Like I said, this is just the suitcase we're in. Like, remember when I said we're simply interdimensional beings? This is just another tool, like our shirt, our glasses, socks. This is just another tool for us to get around in. So when you hear the spirit or the soul or whatever, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Okay.
It's the same thing. We're all love, light, and energy. That's it.
I had it in my mind that, maybe the spirit was the ethereal part of us, and the soul was the consciousness inside that. Um, Maybe that's just my imagination,
No, no, no,
Jason.
that's okay. Our consciousness, I mean, we are undoubtedly a ball of consciousness, you know. Our
Mm-hmm.
true selves, our true consciousness, we're still at home with Father or God. Okay. We're still at home in heaven with
Yeah.
him right now. Okay. This is just it's like when you put a dollop of sugar on sugar cookies, you put up a little pinch and you sprinkle it over it. This is what we are right now. It's just a little bit of who we are, consciousness, soul, crammed into a physical body. So when you experience the love and you experience the oneness that you had, right? That was you merging with yourself. God wasn't giving you that intelligence. You merged with yourself and became one.
Okay.
That's what Jesus accomplished when he was here, or Yeshua. At some point from the time he was born to his ministry, he accomplished becoming one with the universe, or himself. So he was able to raise the dead, heal the sick, the blind, what all the things that we can do. We just haven't accomplished it in this timeline right now. So when you
I
say
want.
you saw the meadow or whatever, you create heaven. What you think heaven is what you are going to see when you go back home. It's kind of like, you're coming from such a hard place like earth, and then all of a sudden this is heaven to you. This is your version of what you wanted to see. It makes your transition easier. You know what I'm saying? Coming from this
Mhm.
to, you know, to home, it just makes it easier for us.
So that may have been why, when I died, because I was guilt ridden over the abortions, not confessing those, that when I died, um, I perceived myself as being first in hell. Then when I called out to God, I moved into, I moved towards a white light, and then I was kind of in this gray area to a white area, but it's like I didn't go any further. And maybe I only experienced that because I felt like that was all I deserved at the time.
Now, were you actually clinically dead?
Well, I have never been able to find that out, Jason. The problem is the nurse told me that my son and I both died. When I went back after a year to try to get my medical records to find out exactly what happened, um, they couldn't find the medical records. And and then when all of this started resurfacing with me again in March, I went back to the hospital to see if I could get the records, and they said they're destroyed after 10 years. So
It
whether that's
almost
true or
sounds
not,
like,
I don't
I
know.
know, right? I mean, it almost sounds, because your NDE is a lot like mine, in the fact that when mine occurred, yes, I did die, but that's not when mine happened. I was on recovery, I was still in the ICU, but the tube and stuff was out. So when I cried out to God to not let me die, it was basically, I won't get into the whole thing, but it was divine intervention. I mean, I was in the light. I was, like you said, in the warm love that flowed through every part of your being. No
Mhm.
words to describe it, none at all. And so it sounds like that you weren't clinically dead. So God gave you, or allowed you to see, what he needed you to see and be in touch with at that moment in time. Because those that are clinically dead, that if their heart stopped, their gunshot, car accident, they're no longer breathing for 10, I don't think you and I were. You went, so theirs are a little more in depth, and um, more in depth, where ours are limited because we're not dead. We're still alive. But in that horrific experience that we had, we're allowed to see a certain amount and to feel a certain amount. Okay.
Oh, I understand. I think I understand what you're saying. So, you know what? That may be a good point, Jason, because I have to think about that. Because I was curious, how long was I actually dead? If I was dead, how
Right.
long, what time period was that? I just know that when I woke up, it was 4 days later, and they had me in restraints, and the nurse said that I had died and my son had died, and that we both came back, were resuscitated, and that he had a 50-50% chance of living. So that's all I know.
Something happened in there that allowed you to transition from here to home.
Yeah,
So-
because I saw myself. So my body or my soul left. I looked down. I saw myself on the operating table. I saw the two doctors frantically working on me. I saw nurses running in and out, and the next thing it was black. And then I knew I was dead.
Right. Now when you entered the void, it is exactly that. Void of anything. Light, sound, smell,
Nothing.
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 It is the blackest black you will ever have.
Yep. Yep.
I entered that on my second 2 years after I died. I was very emotional and stuff. Rod knows about this story, but I was crying out to God again. Why'd you keep me in the hospital? You know, blah, 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 blah. Like a big baby, like what I got wasn't good enough, you know? So I'm saying, you know, but when I had my other out of body experience, I was taken into the void, into the tunnel at light speed.
Okay. So you're saying it's an out of body experience, not a clinical death.
Right. Mine, even though I did reach that stage when I cried out to God, I don't know at what point in time they had the tube out, everything out. So mine was basically an NDE/OBE because I wasn't clinically dead. Basically, I cried out to God. He opened up the door. He allowed heaven to come into the hospital room. And, I was out of my body at the top of the ceiling, seeing all the colors, seeing the tree souls, the grass's soul, everything. I knew everything that there was to ever know, and I felt ashamed and guilty because of the things that I had done in my life. And growing up as a Catholic, you realize,
you were Catholic too, huh?
Oh, I was up until that day. And then I realized that, when I'm standing up, because I spoke to God, I said, I'm home, and
I'll make this a bit bigger so you guys can talk. I'll just take myself out for a second.
No, you're good. So, I said, I'm home. And, I felt guilty for being there because I shouldn't have, in my mind, I shouldn't have been there. I was, I had done some things that Christianity will say, well, you are going to burn in hell, and
right.
And
me too.
Right. And all of a sudden, it was given to me without question, hesitation, or doubt that I had done nothing wrong, nothing. And that I was loved, and the guiltier I felt, the more I was loved, I was loved. And as I told Rob before, it was as warm as the sun, and it flowed through every part of my soul. There wasn't any wavering, no, it was unconditional love, and a sense of, I have been here before many thousands of times actually, and that, I was okay. He answered me. And then when Jesus showed up, again, no more condemnation. It was nothing but love. So
what did he look like?
It was, again, like yours. I wasn't allowed to see.
Oh, okay.
I knew who it was.
You just knew who it was.
I just knew who it was, and I know who I was standing, who was standing in front of me. And that was, I call him Father, but God. And, it was more out of shock for me because I was like, what am I doing here? It's not my time yet. I was like, why am, so when you say, you've done questionable things or have.
Oh, I think Jason froze up.
Yeah, he's frozen for me as well. All right, yeah.
There we go.
No, here he is. He's back.
There we go. It's like, it's just gonna offend a lot of people. God doesn't care whether you get an abortion or not. He already knows you're going to. He already knows it's part of what you planned to do down here or have an experience, because there's no right or wrong or good or bad. Being here in a physical form is simply, we're here to learn. We can learn more here on earth than we can at home. So we come here, we choose these experiences, we choose to forget, and then all of a sudden we're like, man, this really isn't very fun. This sucks, and that's all it is. So the fact that you had those, the fact that I had a couple bisexual experiences, and in Christianity, you're going to burn in hell, period. End of subject. And there's no reincarnation, which, well, I'm sorry, I've died over 3,200 times. So, everything that was given to me for 50 years of my life that I firmly believed in was in that moment erased, gone. There is no hell. There is none of that, it's simple. Everybody goes home. It's all about your energy, on where your energy is. If your energy's up and it's real high, then, you get that beautiful, loving experience, not the blackness of the void. It's only when you cry out to God or you raise your energy high enough that you can leave the physical realm, because that's kind of what the void is. The bottom two levels are still, it's heaven, but it's still, we still have
It's
access
the basement.
to our mind. We still have access to our minds. So our minds create what? Not puppy dogs and kitten cats and cupcakes. No, we create the worst things possible. What do we create? Hell. What do I hear? Oh, it's not a kitty cat meowing, it's demons or this or that. And then you make them manifest. There they are, It's not until you cry out to God, as you've heard atheists and others, God, please. And instantly that light is there. You're already home. When I tell Rod and others, we're our own worst enemies. We create, when we make manifest, horrible things, so that's how I see the spirit is. We're all a spirit, a soul, an entity, an interdimensional being. That's who we are. We're just here in a physical body for the time being.
Well, right. Yeah, I believe that too. We're a spirit having a human experience.
Beautiful. That's it. That's exactly it. And we can learn more in our time here in physical form than we could ever learn back home. Somebody can teach you something all they want, but until you get out and do it in the real world, is your job or whatever, you'll learn more doing your job than you would have somebody teaching you. That can only go so far, but until you jump in and start doing it, that's when you really learn. And that's why we're here, to learn, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but we're not here to love either. We are love. All of us are connected. We are all love. We all love each other, even though we don't remember. So we simply come down here to experience everything we can't get at home. That's it.
Well, it hasn't been fun.
Yeah. I've had a pretty hard 53 years. I've had a very hard 53 years, and if I were to say, was it fun? I'd beg to differ. It's been tough, but as I tell everybody, we've all been kings and queens. We've all been rich. We've all been poor. We've been everything, from Native American to Asian to white to black. We've been everything, and we're just simply here for that experience. So we don't want to live in the past, right? We learn from it. Right. We stay there. Nothing good's going to come out of there because you can't go back and change anything. It is forever written for all of eternity. So you learn from that experience, you learn from those things, and then you move forward and you apply those to what's going on now. To live in the past that's where you'll remain, and nothing good will come out of that.
Well, you can't change it, so there's no point.
Just learn from it and move on. Drop it like, dead weight. You've learned, move on, And if people want to hold that against you, that's their problem. We're to forgive. Two powerful weapons: love, as you said, Rod. What's the greatest form? Empathy. To be empathy, to see somebody hurting and to love them and love that situation is the highest form of love we can have for one another. So learn from that experience and then move on. If they want to hold you accountable, that's on them. You just keep going forward.
That's good. That's a good answer. It's what I like about you, Jason, is that you can take one question and you get 20 minutes of really good information. So we're into about 45 minutes in. So I told you this could go anywhere, this conversation, didn't I, Christine?
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, it was good. So we've had a few people sort of drop in, a couple of lurkers. There'll be people that'll come back for the replay. But I don't have anything more as far as my questions go. Christine, if you've got anything that you finally would want to say to anyone that's doing this in the replay, and I'll give you the solo layout, so you'll get to talk, but we'll be in the background. Have you got anything?
Sure, I do. So I think one of the clear messages I got that I feel that I should be passing on to everyone is to not fear death. A few years ago when we were all in lockdowns, everyone was fearing dying from a virus. And even my son was afraid I was going to get it and die. And I had no fear at all about dying. Once you go through a near-death experience, there is no fear because you see what's on the other side and life continues. You don't stop existing. Who you are now in your mind, your personality continues when you're on the other side. So I just had lunch with a dear friend who is near 80 years old. And of course, this is on her mind a lot. And so I was able to help her by talking about my near-death experience a little more deeper than I have in the past. And for anyone out there that is elderly and afraid, don't be afraid at all. There is nothing to be afraid of. God is going to be there with you. He will send beings to you to help you transition. When my dad died on his deathbed, he told me there were 5 angels in the room meeting him. So he had 5 angels, and my dad was an old gruff man. He was a lovely man, but he was gruff. And he had 5 angels that he said they were beautiful angels. So don't be afraid.
Thank you. Thank you for that message, Christine. I appreciate that. All right. Well, let's. I think we'll wrap it up here. And thank you both for joining me today. It's always fun. This is live stream number 4. I can still imagine when there would be live stream number 400. I can't imagine what's going to be going on then. But yeah,
You got
yeah,
it.
it's good. It's good to be able to keep moving the conversation forward and making more people aware of these experiences and allowing these conversations to occur. So I appreciate you guys for being part of that. All right. Well, bye everyone. Thanks for those who dropped in. I think Tina LaPointe. Thank you, Tina. She's always reliable as well. I think she's dropped in the last few live streams. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Christine. And I'll talk to you guys again soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.